What is up, YouTube? It's Aaron back here with On the Bubble, and today we have a new cast of characters. Today we have a famous YouTuber. How are you doing today, Austin?
What's up? What's up? Doing good, doing good.
So we've got
But
the
yeah,
D. No, sorry, go for
oh,
it.
my bad, my
No,
bad.
you're
Oh, I
good.
thought we were doing introductions. Okay. I was gonna say, I'm the DB grinder. If you want to go ahead and check me out, there we go. I'm on YouTube. I grind DB. Weird. Play Yu-Gi-Oh. Luna Light combo. Yup, Luna Light combo. But that's really it.
We have my good friend from Argentina, Franco. How are you doing, sir?
Doing good, doing good over here. Just came back from Peru. Long tournament. Was fun. Uh, that's it.
Perfect. And Cormac, how
I
are you
don't
doing,
think I'm
sir?
famous.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Some of you might have seen me on the channel previously. Yeah, I just came back from Lille, also a long weekend. But yeah, no, it was fun. It was a good time.
Yeah. So today we're going to be going over the DC Cup. We had Austin over here grinding a little bit, and then we have Lille, who Cormac was at, and Lima, where Franco was at, and top aided. So gonna have a nice breakdown of everything, and then we're gonna do some discussion about Anaheim and how we think those events are gonna shape moving forward. So, DB Grinder, how was your Masterful experience?
It was wonderful. Okay, little background. I actually don't play Master Duel like ever. I only play like for the big tournaments. So actually, when the tournament started, I wasn't even level 20 yet. So I was still like a few games away. I was like, don't worry, bro, I'm getting there. I'll be there in a minute. And by like 1 a.m., boom. But then like by like noon the next day, I was already like in first place. So like you can start a little bit behind and still get to first, but then it just went real downhill real fast. I just started getting tilted, and then internet connection issues like with the server. I did it was bad. Well, good. It was actually good,
No,
not negative.
I mean if internet's a problem, like I heard server issues have been a problem over DC Cups over the past few. Like it's been just like a one-time thing.
hmm
That's
Yeah,
something
like
I
it
definitely
happens
noticed.
sometimes. It's I don't think it's like actually like the worst. Well, the format itself isn't that great, like the actual like card game, I guess, but like the 72 hours straight, I don't think it's actually that bad. I think it's actually like pretty good overall if you can just like commit to it and actually like prepare for it and everything, but it's pretty tough to like stay like level minded throughout the entire thing,
Yeah.
especially like this format where it's like, oh, I drew Ash Blossom 4 engine. They go, oh, normal Dormouse, and it's like, all right, well, scoop.
Yeah.
It just sucks because like there's games where you work so hard to win and you're like, oh, I'm the GOAT, and then literally the next match it's like, oh, it went second, Dormouse, oh, scoop.
Yeah. Yeah, whenever I was speaking with Emery recently, he was also in the beginning like, "Oh, I don't care for the 72-hour format," but he's kind of changed his tune to it as well. And when you look at like the players
Mhm.
that have qualified for Worlds from the DC Cup, it is generally just like some of the best players in the world. Like I think he said it's like I don't remember how many DC Cups, maybe 11, and there's only been like six individual winners. Like that is
Yeah.
just a really big
Crazy.
testament to like the quality of player that has to play and do it consistently to reach that pinnacle of
Mhm.
success and qualify for Worlds. So yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
um,
for sure, for sure.
yeah. So
I think the
hopefully,
one thing,
yeah.
sorry, just
No,
to
no,
cut you
go.
off, just about that though, is that like even looking at stuff like this format, where I know that there's been like a lot of problems, and like I think this format in particular, there's a lot of just complete non-games, like you mentioned there, like the Dormouse into like 5 engine or like 4 engine and 1 Ash Blossom. Um, and the format in general, like it disincentivizes you from like caring too much about an individual game. Like it's very much just about like the volume. But this one in particular, I felt like you probably also had to play even more games than average because so many of them just ended immediately. So I don't know if like there's an exact number about this, but from so many people that I spoke to, like the number of games they played in this DC Cup compared to other DC Cups seemed like a lot higher. Just because of like so many of those just being over like so quickly, and you have to just play so many just to be able to get to a decent rank.
Yeah, the
Oh, that's
number
extreme.
usually is like what 300 to 400 games, and I saw people talking about like closer to 5 or 6 for this one. Insane.
Jeez.
I think I had 100 games won before I even went to bed the first time.
One, not even like just so you played whatever 200 or 300 games in 24 hours. 200 or like whatever 150 ish.
I didn't like keep track of how many games I played individually, but it
Yeah,
tells you like when you finish like oh this many games you've won or whatever.
yeah.
I just remember being like, dude, I'm at 100 already. Like this is crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I assume
yeah.
whatever 60-70% win rate. So yeah, at least 150 games in whatever that
Yeah.
first 24 hours is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
So compared to I haven't followed the ban list between Worlds and now. Is it just the exact same format from Worlds?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
Except
So it's
that
Gen 9 now,
Maliss
right?
has backup now.
Oh, so it's even
Oh,
worse.
oh, yeah,
So
that's great.
backup, and I think I heard Gen 9 is now legal, so that makes things more fun.
You see your hand is 5 hand traps. Oh, I can't even beat it.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, Master Duel gets better. It seems to be that from what I've heard, DC Cup formats have not historically been the best compared to like, and when you look at like the WCQ
Regular
format
formats.
for nationals, like I think, or for Worlds TCG, like that also has historically not been the best. So hopefully they're able to make some adjustments to make the Worlds qualifying process a little more enjoyable. But I'm not doing
I
it,
think
so it doesn't really affect me. God
yeah,
bless all of you that grinded that shit out. It's not gonna be.
it's really nice they change the format like so often. Like the boundaries are like so regular that they acknowledge when a format is bad. Maybe they could do it like faster, but that's a cool thing about like Master Duel, because otherwise in TCG sometimes you get like a 6-month Malice format.
Yeah, there's.
Yeah. Or like 9 months of Snake Eye, like that sort of stuff like
Yeah,
that.
like
Yeah, like
Astro definitely has the potential to get fixed quicker. It's just like the
Yeah,
timing of it is not
that's a
always
really
ideal.
positive
Like
thing.
it'll be like banlist will come in like a week, and everyone's that play the DC Cup. They're like, bro, where was this like 2 weeks ago? And way more enjoyable experience. Alrighty, so now we're going to get into YCS Lille. The winner was an Odion deck, which I don't think any one of us expected. Um,
God no. God
so
no.
top 8, which is now the new format. Prizing was given out to the top 64, and I think 256 get the day 2 pack, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So Cormac, give us a little bit of a background for your experience before we get into all the top decks.
Yeah, so I was here at YCS Lille. I played pure Mitsurugi, prepped with Franco, who made top 8 at Lima. So we have the same list. I felt pretty confident that Mitsurugi was probably the correct pick for this event, at least, in some way, shape, or form. Myself and Franco and our group, after the ban list came, we were all just really, really struggling to find a deck that we were all really, really happy with. I think my issue is that all of the decks in this format, they all feel like they have some issue of some sort. So Yomi is very consistent at what it does, but it can get broken a lot easier now compared to pre-ban list, by Mitsurugi in particular, and then to an extent Draco Tail. And then Mitsurugi has the problem of consistency. Like you're just going to have a lot of non-games because you just open know where to start playing. And Draco Tail to an extent, but that's more a case of you generally draw one fusion play, and if that gets stopped, then you kind of end on nothing, and the board is a little bit underpowered as well. So yeah, I personally I wasn't actually really looking forward to this YCS after the ban list. I was like to play Yomi before the ban list came out. I felt that deck was just absolutely insane, but wasn't really viable in my opinion here. I think when we look at the top 8, it converted relatively well. There was 3 of them in the top 8 here at Lille, but we do see that none of them converted even into top 4, let alone to the final or winning the event. So we see here that there was, once it started going up just directly against Mitsurugi decks, it really just seemed to fall off pretty quickly.
And then one of those decks that was in the top 8 was a Yummy Mitsurugi deck, so it wasn't even a pure Yummy deck. Which was a deck that I think we all were kind of aware of prior to the event, but it obviously performed well in Lima as well. That seemed to be like the deck for the weekend in terms of just like coming out of like it was like a thing we were all aware of, and just like kind of was like performed really well, especially into like Draco Tail. Like that deck just kind of gasses through the 1-for-1 hand traps pretty efficiently, and that seemed to be kind of the trend leading up to the event. We'll see how that kind of takes place moving forward, but like the other card that I think we saw doing really well with Super Poly, and like that deck is more resilient to Super Poly, which was like how you kind of broke the Yummy board efficiently, or like the Pure Mitsu board. So you're able to combine both of them, and like end on a diverse end board, still have a fair amount of room for non-engine, etc. Like seem to be like the kind of way to perform well at this event. Austin, you did the top 8 videos for your channel. What did you see from that and the coverage?
There's definitely some cool decks topping right now, some interesting decks. I don't know, it seems like the format's pretty like wide open. You can play a lot of different decks and do well. Like I think Mitsurugi's really, really strong though. The deck's just like inherently good against like everything, it feels like. Except I guess Odion going second. That That deck's kind of scary. I can't lie.
Yeah.
Hopefully that deck doesn't get played like a lot more. And then there also wasn't a lot of like canine decks. That was like really interesting. Like they
Mhm.
completely died off. Like that whole page you're showing, there's like
Yeah,
one.
there's nothing. There's one Vanquish Soul deck, and there's no Crystron. I know there's one Crystron in 64.
Is that
And
a yummy
then, or
Crystron?
two in 64. I know Kamal top forward Lima with it. So,
It did.
but yeah, there's definitely
Yeah.
like I thought the canine cards performed pretty well. Like I just think they're kind of well positioned. They are pretty resilient into hand traps. They make like a layered inboard with like force release and whatever. Like they interact better with Yummy now that they have Jacks. Like I think the cards not bad. But obviously like they didn't have success. So either Droll was super prominent in a lot of decks and that stopped it, or whatever else. Yeah, we'll get into some of the top deck lists. You mentioned the Primate Odion deck. This was Diego Ziglia, Italian guy. I don't really know how this did well. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm trying not to.
Me neither.
I'm just looking at this and I'm like,
No, I
okay,
mean,
like
he definitely knew something that the rest didn't. Like we don't know how this deck actually rolls into a game. Like you
yeah,
look at this and you can't really see, besides of like the obvious, like your opponent tries to play and you stop them. But like the question is like, if your opponent manages to play, what are you doing? That's, and I think you are just losing.
hmm
Like your opponent activates. Okay, it has impulse and delta, but like if a single Mitsurugi ritual spell resolves, I don't see how this deck wins.
yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
So like,
Also, it's really interesting that impulse turns off like all the starters, right?
well, you can
I
still
don't know.
get to interactions off of like Lordly Load. So you can
Yeah,
Lordly Load, add Drill Beam, summon a guy from deck.
yeah.
But yeah, like you don't get like the barrel recursion. Impulse seems like the card that makes the least amount of sense just in terms of that interaction. But
I
like you said, if
assume.
Mitsurugi Ritual resolves, like the game is over.
Yeah, I assume he was trying to hold it. Like I guess like he was playing so many hand traps that his
Yeah,
idea was like, I'm gonna use impulse like my last one. But like your opponent goes Mitsurugi Ritual, and you don't have delta, you have to slap impulse.
yeah.
Like you're forced to.
I mean, Impulse can be a
I
bit of a
assume.
breaker, right? Like on Fimena, on the Yummy
Yeah,
cards. So like you can potentially try and get like a barrel to resolve first.
yeah.
Same for Man with the Mark, but I like obviously he played really fucking well to get as far as he did with this deck.
Yeah, also he did really well in Swiss, which is surprising. It's
Yeah, he
not
went
like
X1
he
throughout the
snuck
entire
like
tournament.
X3 and it's not like he snuck X3 and then like
Yeah,
won all three die rolls. He actually performed well on Swiss too. One thing that really surprised me is cherries. Uh,
yeah.
I I,
The
I,
cherries
I I guess it's for Liger Dancer. That's
and
where
snatches.
I heard it most. Yeah, because for Snatch it just doesn't work.
Uh,
Like
well, when you're playing as many other hand traps as he is, I assume it's gonna be hard to resolve
it,
it.
it is, but like it seems to conflict what the other hand traps are attempting to do, right?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Like
Yeah,
cherries
like
is
you
more
want
like
to
a try
prevent
to like
them
skip your
getting
opponent's
it.
turn, and then the other hands are trying to 1-for-1,
Um,
which is kind of
yeah, but it's like the high
like
impact one for one hand. Like he's not playing like
yeah,
Valor and whatever.
that's fair.
And playing cards like Bell, like you can use those as breakers as well in some matchups. So I think hand traps when you're playing these ones specifically, like the Purge, Impulse, Ash Bell, like these are all cards, even Imperm, that they can be used as breakers as well. So that's like
Yeah,
kind of
that's
a
for sure.
benefit. The issue is like your engine doesn't provide a lot of pushing power or like threat going second. Um, so I don't know how he was able to break boards. Maybe he just like played grind games with Typhon and non-engine. I would love to see more games with this deck. I want to see how it wins going second. But I
I
will
think it's
say
just
like
hand
in
trap to
term,
death.
sorry.
It reminds me of like Centurion game style where you try to like hand trap your opponent to death and like put them on like a really small scenario where you go back and forth trading resources, and it's probably a deck that like out resource your opponent because all the cards are like 1-for-2
Yeah,
one card starters.
yeah,
That's probably
yeah, all of his starters go plus whatever 1, 2, even
exactly.
3. Like barrel gets you, load which gets you, drill beam which gets you a bot.
You can't like one hand trap any of his starters. So I guess that was the game plan. It's like how many hand trap? 3, 6, uh,
And 18,
10,
18 if you count all the
18 hand
Dominuses.
traps.
19 with
Yeah,
Shifter.
18 hand traps. Yeah, 19.
So very large
Yeah,
number. So I'm curious, like, why he chose this over a deck like Yummy. If this was like the approach of just like playing a high non-engine count. I guess like one of the arguments is like when you're playing against Mitsurugi, you have like Impulse and Purge, which are both good. Going first, you get to end on the Apophis. Luckily they didn't run into your deck with double Cyclone because that probably would have performed pretty well. But yeah, like I'm kind of here. Like I said, I don't understand how this deck did well, so I am gonna have to like do some research and see how.
Probably less
He-
targeted to like a Yummy. There was a lot of Super Poly, and I don't think this deck gets hurt a lot by Super Poly.
yeah,
I don't know. I have to see the end, but it's probably not.
I guess this is
So
just like when I've talked with Santoli, he's like, or I think Emery as well. Like they talk about how like you build decks to like beat the non-engine of the format, and this deck probably gets unaffected by a lot of the non-engine in the format.
that's
So
right.
as long as you are able to do something into like the Yummy end board or just like the Mitsu end board and just like try and like Typhon bounce and then just like play a grind game with them, like I guess that's just what he was trying to make happen. So yeah, congrats to him. Like obviously very successful. First after
Insane
Swiss,
result.
17-1 overall.
Yeah, no one can take that away. It's like
Yeah,
17 rounds.
yeah,
Like you can't just say he got lucky. Like there was thought, and we don't know how it played. Like I actually
yeah,
don't know. I can't explain because I don't know how his game developed. But he had a plan and it worked. So
yeah,
congratulations to him.
yeah. Like I
It's
said, I don't know
great
how to do
result.
it, but he obviously did, and it worked out for him. So good shit to him. Um, yeah,
It's nice to see like different stuff doing
yeah,
well.
yeah. When you looked at the breakdown, there was whatever 30, not 30, whatever 15 decks. Oh, we have unknown. Yeah, just like
Yeah,
over 10 decks easily. Even the decks that you see a lot of, like Mitsurugi is only a quarter of the field, Yummy's whatever, a sixth. So I think we're
and
approaching
also
a
it's
spot
like
of
an
the
open
format being
format.
healthy. Obviously, there's always things you can point to, but compared to last format where like Holy Sue was very oppressive and Paradise Smasher was very oppressive, like I think this level of viability of a lot of different decks is a good thing to see compared to what we've had in the past year or two. So yeah, that was the first place deck. Second is Philip. Play pure Mitsurugi. So gentlemen, y'all were the Mitsurugi enthusiasts. What are your thoughts on the deck list?
It's it's fairly close to what we played, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference we didn't main Super Poly.
Yeah.
Uh, we weren't sure on maining it because it's really bad into Dracula. He's playing Secretarian, but it's not great. You can't like Super Poly in Dracula is never great. It's fine. You probably just side it out against that deck post side.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a really high impact card, so I see why he chose to main it against Yami. If you expect to play like Infinite Yami, the card solos the deck. You summon Dragon, you turn off all the targeting, the deck literally just becomes a vanilla. They need droplets to like not get like completely blown off. Yeah, so I think it's a clean
Essentially, yeah.
list.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
it's
for my POV, I know myself and Fark, we were discussing before each of our events, like what we were anticipating to play against. And I did expect to come up against a lot of Mitsurugi mirrors in some way, shape, or form. So there was an argument that potentially like I could have main decked this card, and just because I mean I ended up playing 6 Mitsurugi decks in 15 rounds, which isn't overwhelming, but it is nearly half of my rounds. So in that instance, like maybe Super Poly would have been very very strong there, um, and like it is extremely good in the mirror match. I think its best application when going second is when you have all of Ash, Bell, and Impulse in your deck though, because you want to use it as a breaker into the board and then use the Ash Bell or Impulse on the prayers to stop them getting the engine back and stop them getting follow up. So when you only have 2 of those in your main deck, it's like a little bit less reliable. But yeah, it is obviously just extremely powerful into both Mitsu and into Yumi. So yeah, I think one other thing as well that I noticed in a lot more deck lists this weekend compared to previous with Mitsurugi decks is a lot more people were main decking the trap. We see it here in Philip's list, and also just from my experience of people that I played against. Previously everybody was just side decking the trap. They were all very high on just playing Magatama instead. But yeah, a lot more people were playing both of them now, which we were hoping would be a little bit more of an edge for us than it actually ended up being in reality. But yeah, just something to note as well.
Yeah, I think one thing that people may not understand why the trap is so good, and like just from like a game or like a whatever deck building perspective, is in a lot of modern Yu-Gi-Oh decks, you can utilize the extra deck as your end board. So like you have whatever like in this build, Hope Harbinger. It's not super accessible. Like you have IP, whatever. But when your deck doesn't have a lot of access to the extra deck because you don't have that many bodies to throw into Link Monsters or XYZs, you kind of have to put those end board pieces in your main deck, which is in this deck the form of Magatama Purification. Um, so I think that is an important thing to note. Like when you're playing the Yummy deck, you don't need to put as many surprise in your deck because it's super accessible, and you also have cards like Herald and whatever else in your deck. A lot of non-engine already. But this deck is pretty engine centric. I think you need to like definitely have cards that whenever you do resolve your full combo and have a lot of different searches, having multiple prayers doesn't fix any of the problems of your end board if you get super polyed. Like you still have to have other ways to set up plays like either Magatama search ritualing on your opponent's turn or popping a card. Purification obviously being a counter trap. Like I think that is an important thing to note for a deck like this that people are hopefully
Not a
starting to
control.
catch on to. It obviously makes it worse for the mirror
It's
match.
a normal. Yeah, it's a normal trope.
Yeah, but like the effect is that of a counter trap.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's actually more broken because it negates the effect. But
Yeah.
I think also
it's brilliant.
there's like Mitsurugi doesn't have actually like a way to interact with Mitsurugi
Yeah.
without the trap. Like your interactions are very limited. The same with Dracotail. Like against Dracotail without the trap, it feels like a match. Like there's one match where when you have the trap, and it's a different match when you don't have the trap. Like they activate K2, and now your whole board is like trembling, and you're forced into like a really hard grind. And talking about grind, the trap is like insane in ground games. The graveyard effect is like one of the most custom effects ever printed. It's insane. It's a quick effect, summon and tribute, so it triggers your whole board. It gives you follow up. I think that the follow it provides it makes it a threat that you have to get rid of because otherwise in their turn you know they're just gonna blow you off again otherwise. And even going second, which I wasn't playing Mitsu last format, and I think Mitsu was just like not being played that much besides like a few people because he had like a really bad Vanquish matchup. So I guess the trap wasn't that important. Uh, but like the card is actually really good going second. Like when you break a board, you can just set it up. It happened to me a lot of game once, and I actually kept it in the mirror and in against Rakotel going second. I would break the board because it's not that easy. You have a lot of big bodies, so it looks like it's easy to OTK with this deck, but it's not. Through all the interrupts, usually to break a board, you trigger all your tributes a lot. So most of the time, you're just like breaking their board and playing Murakumo control with like they are low on hand advantage. So the discard from Murakumo plus the trap makes it really hard for a deck to come back.
Yeah, and one of the very funny, or I guess not funny, but like degenerate things of the format that I Austin saw a few times in Top Cut was
Yeah.
a possible Dino Apache post side in the mirror match.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched his video. I think it was the top four Mitsurugi mirror, and games 2 and 3 were just both of them just like, all right, Gallon Granite, Apache, all right, good luck, and then that just like FTK both games, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think someone lost in top 8 because they did the Apache. Because they got like a Dastard into Lightning Storm, and if it didn't have a Apache, they would have won,
Yeah. Um, I
which is very
generally
funny.
don't like these kinds of floods that like turn off your own engine and just like play protect the castle.
I don't like the card.
Yeah, like
I think
but I understand how
Meteor
good
Board.
it is.
Yeah,
Like when you're playing against Mitsurugi, you don't really want to have like Dark Ruler in your deck because their end board is pretty layered and can like let it resolve. Okay, Purification and Prayer tribute off everything and bring it back. But post side, like this patchy card like is just going to be very oppressive and something you have to like take into account now. The other card we see is DeFi, which we saw a fair bit on Dueling Book just to beat Draco Tail and Yummy.
also
So
like
I
a
think
pseudo draw out.
yeah, yeah. So the one thing that we will see like early format is everything gets diverse and it's cool. As things progress, everyone just finds really degenerate ways to floodgate each other. That seems to be a pretty common trend in modern Yu-Gi-Oh. So
Yeah,
we'll obviously see more of this moving forward in terms of the floodgates that we see. But it's like cool, like when you see a deck like Trif's that's like really just designed to like gas through everything. But then you just like start activating floodgates against it, and you're like, all right, well, there goes all my gas. So cool
I
premise.
think
For his,
yeah,
no, we'll get to his deck in a little bit, but I like the idea of this format. I think diversity makes a lot of like interesting games because you're not playing like the same mirror match a lot, but then you get to see stuff like this, and you're like, all right, well, this is a lot less fun to do. So we shall see. Some other cool decks that I saw. We saw a Vanquish Soul deck. I think top 16.
oh, I didn't see
This
this.
was in Lille. 3 Noroi. Pretty normal engine ratios. 3 Xiaolong still, I assume, just to like keep up with the canines. The fire count is pretty low. 7. No impulse in the main. Then Mac just like pretty much this is like a full K9 deck featuring some Vanquish Soul cards, and yeah, he's playing this usually to try and bridge. Nothing crazy in the extract that I can see. And then side deck is Phantasme Bell, Droll Bistules, and then Tactics Called by Tikaboo. Austin, have you played the Vanquish Soul deck too much lately or at all?
No. Post dude with the Noir, I haven't played it really, no.
Okay. So, yeah, I guess you're playing Saryuja and just like trying to make that shit work. Obviously you have the option of like looking at your opponent's hand with Noroi now to see Imperm and Purge, so you choose not to go for that line. Like I said earlier, I think the K9 cards are positioned well enough. But I think you're still definitely kind of scared getting into a grind game with these cards if you don't resolve Bad Love or whatever. Yeah, this is the only deck that performed well. He obviously, I assume, is very well versed in the deck. You have any thoughts on this? Do you think there's any viability of this deck to perform consistently?
I feel like this deck's probably just like a little bit of like of a worse Crystron deck at this point.
That's a lot.
But I don't know, like the deck just it feels like a lot worse than it did before. Like there's so many more problems with like raising that one. Like the fire count's low. Like you can't Holly Sue in the raisin like multiple times. It just feels like the deck lost a lot of what like it had.
Yeah, I
And
Yeah,
think
Yumi
like I
being
feel
so
like
prevalent.
it's not what I would like to be playing. Like the way I look at the Canine cards is that they're generally, especially Jokal, and even to an extent right now, they're like ceiling razor type of cards. Whereas in this type of deck, they're very much like the core engine that are trying to just get you to the Vanquish Soul cards because you don't have enough Vanquish Soul cards to really like play it by itself or to be in any way consistent. So like you have a couple of plays that are kind of okay. Like you've like Jokal with Jiao Long here, but it's kind of clunky. Like these kind of plays, they're not. I don't know. It doesn't scream like a very viable deck to me personally. Yeah, like I think you mentioned Crystron there. I think Crystron would make a lot more sense because you use the K9 cards to more obviously bridge into the Crystron engine in that way. Whereas with this, it's kind of just like you go Noroi, like you mentioned, you peep their hand, you see an Imperm, and you're like, well, I'm kind of sitting on my K9 engineer because I'm not going to go for a Saryuja because if I do, I lose. But then the K9 end board isn't that amazing as well. Like it's fine, but yeah, I don't know. It's all respect to this player here for making top 16 with this, but it doesn't scream like, oh, this is a pick that maybe people didn't explore. It just seems like I don't know, maybe just Drew Holly Sue going second quite a lot with the attributes.
Yeah, I mean that card's really good. It wouldn't surprise me if that was a
Yeah.
integral part of his
Yeah.
winning strategy.
Yeah, probably.
So last two I saw kind of neat. Maliss top 16 as well. A deck that I've seen tested a fair bit on Dueling Book as of late. This one is pretty much like a hand trap deck. This is like my first time looking at it. So Ash Baylor, Droll Nib, Imperm Impulse. He plays TB11 and MTP. TB11 I think is required now to make White Rabbit a 1-card combo. At least like turn it into Red Ransom.
Mhm.
3 backup, 2 Bistules. Extra deck seems pretty standard in terms of what you expect from a Malice deck. Then side deck is just more hand traps, Mistaken Arrest, and D Barrier, which we see for the first time in the list that we have seen gone over. But that was a card that I saw in most lists that I saw discussed, like Draco Tail citing 3 of it. Just like a pretty oppressive card, and it was actually more playing just 3 straight 3 D Barrier compared to something like Thrust into D Barrier, which I think if you saw Thrust in the main deck, D Barrier is generally the target for it. But post side, like if you weren't manning the Thrust anywhere, you just like play 3 D Barrier. And Mistaken Arrest obviously is going to perform pretty well into a lot of the decks that we've seen so far. Mitsurugi, and then any Yummy variant that isn't pure Yummy, Mistaken Arrest will cut off a fair bit of like the ability to bridge in between Yummy and whatever variant. So yeah, have y'all tested Malice at all? I think this deck is like okay, but it's now like a 2 to 3 card combo deck, and until hand traps aren't really played, I don't see how this deck kind of performs to the level it was prior.
Yeah. I played. I had a friend try to make it work a lot, and he was finding like a lot of issues with like first the deck isn't even that consistent, and then it's not. It used to be a deck that was really resilient to hand traps, but losing both first link, the one I forgot the name, the link one,
A
Oh,
decoder,
Decoder?
like a while
yeah,
ago.
yeah, and
The splash mage is the
splash
other one with
mesh.
a link
Yeah,
too as well.
those two hits are actually huge hits, especially when your opponent realizes you don't have the option to do that. it is much easier to interrupt the deck, and sometimes even like a Nibiru, it can like Hank can be like 2 or 3 card combo, and like Nibiru can like make your board like terrible.
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
not like the board is like a
Yeah.
complete FTK.
No, not anymore. Definitely not anymore compared to before. I played against Maliss round 11 at Lille. It wasn't this player, it was as a different player. Similar list to this, although he played GWC and he played a higher Bastille count, which I can kind of get behind the higher Bastille count if you are of the belief that those cards are good into Mitsurugi, because like they obviously also work as extenders. So if you draw any of your Malice names, you're able to go into a red ransom that way, which is what happened when he won roll game 1 and opened White Rabbit plus Baldrick, I believe. So yeah, but yeah, I don't know. This deck, like, sure, you get to like if you get to combo, you get to pop off, but like there's not enough real ways to play in this deck. It's not amazing even into the non-engine in the format. You know, like there's a lot of impulse. There's a lot of people playing nib. I mean, he's maining 3 nib. I don't know. Like this deck can play a lot of non-engine itself, but even here, like I see things like main deck draw is it's probably more reasonable now that there's probably a lot more Mitsurugi, especially Mitsurugi variants. But Veilers aren't even that great. Like I don't know. I look at these decks that are very high on engine count, and like there's a lot of these cards here that I just don't like playing. Like I feel like this is I'd prefer playing a deck that just has a higher engine count that can just push through more things, and this isn't really that. But again, if Malice fits the combo, like it is still like it might not be as good as it was before, but it's still good. So.
I will. The draw in this deck also probably doubles as just like you get food, you drill yourself. Probably another argument for it in this deck.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then like again, like if,
theory.
I grab it back with Firewall.
yeah. So you just always have the option to as well. So I agree. I think this deck is still like it's scary. Like I've heard people discuss like if you're playing against this deck game 3 going second, you don't have Lancea in your deck, like you better hope you draw a really good hand. But on average, I think like the consistency of this deck is lower. A card like Ghost Spell, which wasn't really played much prior, like actually has a little bit more value because like you don't have Splash Phase as an extender, so you can bell Bestials, you can bell Wizard AI. So
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Field Spell, yeah.
Yeah, so the bell is like a pretty interactive card against this deck now that there are less extenders. So thank God this deck is not as oppressive as it was. I still expect it to perform well, but hopefully a little bit less.
It's a deck that should be really well positioned, but it just got power crept pretty hard, basically.
Yeah, when you see
I mean,
D-Barrier and everyone's side, you're like, cool, Link deck. And then you look at the Link decks and you're like, damn, they're not what they used to be. A lot of the generic inboard pieces got hit. The consistency of this combo got hit, so definitely not what it once was. And then another thing we saw, I've been liking the Orcust deck a little bit as of late. I haven't played this variant specifically. But one thing we have seen is just like Mitsurugi variants. Like, you can throw Mitsurugi in most decks, even with the Feral Imps hit, which is what this deck relied on originally.
Yeah.
But even without it, like you can still bridge into it through from the Mitsurugi side into Orcust off of either Hard Making Tinkirsu, which will get you to a Crescendo, or you can Zombie Vampire and try and get you that way if you want a more Gamba approach. And then you can't, if I remember correctly, actually go from Orcust into Mitsu without Feral Imps. But you can just like play Orcust, which I think is not a bad deck right now. Obviously, and the nice thing about it is these decks don't really interact in like a negative way. Like if you get Droll and Mitsurugi, like Orcust doesn't really care about that. If you get buried again, like you don't really care. Then if you get like Fluid, like you can just kind of like play Mitsurugi most of the time. So, what are y'all's thoughts on like the Mitsurugi variants? Like, what have y'all seen? What feels the best right now? Have you looked at this one at all?
So I didn't look into like this build very much, just because I'm not a big fan of the Orcust cards right now. I feel like they play in the Fua like really bad, and I also just hate decks that play in the Fua like really bad. I don't like having like almost like auto loss cards. It feels like.
Yeah.
Even though like you do have like the Mitsurugi engine and stuff, like I don't want like I don't know. It wouldn't feel that great. At that point, I'd feel like, why not just like cut the Orcus and just like play Mitsu, or maybe throw like yummy cards in there instead. Like yummy cards are pretty good in the like every hand trap basically.
I think like maybe the approach I'd like to see more is like not like which it is kind of here, but like for example, I don't know why we are not maining the trap, because like basically if you are maining all these Mitsu cards, just go for like the big Mitsu package and make the other engine smaller. which lets you just play pure Mitsu under Fuwa, so you don't have to insta scoop. Like you get Fuwa, it's like okay, I just play pure Mitsu. I add the trap, I add Magatama, I add prayers, I pass. You have 4 cards, I have 3 interrupts and a discard. I think that's the real strength of the Mitsu deck. Like the more Mitsu cards you play, the better the Mitsu engine is. It is really splashable, but it also loses a lot of its advantages the less Mitsu cards you play. And this player committed a lot of space too, so I think he was just like 4 or 5 cards off, and maybe like make the second engine. I'm not saying Orcust because I haven't tried Orcust, so I can't give my opinion on that. Honestly, I tried a lot of things. I didn't try Orcust, but I think you approaching like maybe like making the Mitsu engine bigger is a lot of times better because the cards are better than like mid, the rituals are less bricks the more ritual spells you play, etc., etc., etc. Especially without bridges.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think just as a wider point on like the Mitsurugi variants, one thing that I noticed, and I think Franco mentioned as well to us when we were discussing about the events, is that not even so much in Top Cup, but just when we were playing through the events, we saw a lot of like Mitsurugi Ryziel decks, and that part seemed really confusing. Like I feel if you want to play Mitsurugi splashed with something else, you want the engine to not lose to similar things that the Mitsurugi engine loses to. So like Droll and Lockbird, for example. And then also like the Ryziel cards, like in my opinion, they've lost a lot of value. Not even just because there's fewer of them, but Detonator is not nearly as good as it used to be. You only have one X, which is like you have fewer copies of that card, which is the best Ryziel card going second. So things like Yummy or Orcust, regardless of their own qualities, in and of themselves, they would make more sense as types of engines to throw in alongside the Mitsu cards because it means that you're not being as immediately hit by the same things as what Mitsu is being hit by. So yeah, I don't know if personally, I'd be surprised if Orcust is the best option. I haven't actually looked at the Mitsu Yomi stuff too much in terms of playing it, so maybe that just is the best that we have, or maybe there's something we haven't even discovered yet. But yeah, that's just a sort of a general takeaway that I had from all of this.
I think the biggest probably selling point is if you love Impulse, Orcust gets to play Impulse. So probably like another small benefit of it, but
It
the,
is
the
a
Orcust deck
crazy,
definitely has a
crazy
fair amount
card.
of like clunk, where like even if in the Mitsu deck, if you draw like like a little guy or whatever, like those cards, if you draw pairs are okay, or like the normal summons that can get you an effect. But, like when you draw like Crescendo or Babel, those are already accessible and just like truly dead. Um,
Hmm.
so definitely like not the strongest in that regards, but I definitely see benefits just like normal summoning Girsu and a lot of interrupts. So yeah, but speaking of Yummy Mitsu, we are now going to start looking at Lima, 480 duelists with Steven Trifanowski winning his second YCS of the format back to back.
Crazy.
So, yeah, he's just on another level right now. And this is his
Thank God.
deck with 60 cards. Um, yeah, Franco, you had I think you played against him in Swiss or top 8, right? So yeah, tell
Played
us
a
your
lot in
experience
top
against his
8 to
deck.
him. Yeah, it's a really scary deck when you like I get what I win roll and he just let me full combo. I only had like Ash Blossom as my non-engine, so I ended up like IP Futsu. No, IP no, I banished both my IPs with extra. So it was like SP Futsu Murakumo, Prayers Trap Magatama Nibiru because I searched it and Ash Blossom. And the deck has like infinite pushes. I think his hand was something like Trust, Metal Tronus, Havakiri, Preparation of Rites, and Marshmallow, and Ash Blossom.
Pretty good.
I think that was it. Yeah, it was like all gas. So, and I think this deck thrives on your opponent not knowing what the fuck you're doing. Like it just throws them off. And especially a lot of players, like when they are faced with things they don't expect, they just crumble to the pressure. They're like when you catch them off guard, a lot of players just yeah, they fumble like crazy. Like they start throwing interacts at the first thing you do, and that's probably the last thing you want to do against this. Like you need to keep calm and like try to read what your opponent is trying to do. So if you're somewhat familiar with all the cards, you can like guess, which is what I did. Luckily, I realized like he was holding his last interrupt to go like normal the noble girl at the Raven and try to full Yomi combo into OTK me. But I just held the Nibiru forever, and that ended up winning me the game. But if I use all my interrupts early, he probably would just run over me. It's a lot of gas in the deck, especially when he opens all the different engines. Engage will most likely always be drawing an extra card, and in a deck with so many one-card combos and so many starters that most of them don't even take your normal, it's really strong. Yeah.
Yeah, this deck is really neat. I think it takes advantage of what we've been talking about, where hand traps were kind of prominent, and maybe there's like a little bit less super poly, and it gives you plays into barrier. So like I think it was really well positioned. Obviously a card like Droll, if it gets hit on this deck, is just like very impactful because of how much searching and access it has to all of its engine. But if you don't get Droll and Lockbird in this deck, just like the number of breakers it has and the level of options it has to get to all of its different lines, I think is really difficult to like, especially in real time. If Trif sits down with you 60 cards and just like summons this Nouvelle girl, like what the hell are you gonna do with your? You just don't know what's going on. It's it's really hard to be like, okay, I need to hit the Cupsy Yummy or whatever, like the Snatchy. Like it's really difficult to in real time kind of figure out what's going on, know what to interact with, and whatever. So it's really cool to see the innovation pay off. Like obviously he went, I think X1 in the entire tournament for whatever 15, 16 rounds.
No, he went X2 in Swiss, and then I think he lost once to Luna and once to Ruben in Swiss, and then he won all of the eight.
Yeah, the Lunalite, he only has Lava Golem and Dark Spirit Mastery to search and thrust, so 6,060, assuming that he can resolve thrust, is definitely something you have to sacrifice. And I think he even said that in either his deck profile or one of his tweets. Like, really good matchup into like the big three decks, Luna, Mitsu, Yummy, and Draco Tail. But once you get into like a Lunalite, or maybe I think there's another deck he was like pretty unfavored into, but yeah, like those big three decks that are pretty like standardized, and like you kind of can expect what they're gonna be playing in terms of non-engine and their inboard. He built this to just get gas through them and beat them, and really cool to see that pay off. Austin, have you taken a look at this, played it at all? What are your thoughts on the Yummy Mitsurugi archetype?
I haven't played it at all. Well, I've played the Yummy Mitsurugi deck. I was actually testing that deck for like YCS Niagara like over a month ago. Uh, but like this build, nah, I haven't tested this build at all. Haven't played it at all. I've looked into it some. I definitely plan on looking into it like a lot more, like today actually.
Yeah.
The deck does look really cool, and it looks like it pushes through a lot. So it's definitely something I wanna at least like know what it does. So at least if I play against it, I know what to do.
Yeah, we can come back to some of the other stuff, but yeah, this is the deck that got second place, which I assume is something you're more familiar with. He actually played a smaller Mitsurugi package than I was kind of expecting. Only 2 Habakiri, 3 prayers, pretty high non-engine count, 50 card deck, extra deck, pretty normal. Then like side retaliating sea, troll, barrier thrust. So this is a deck that got second in Peru. We've obviously seen success for it, so probably something you have to be aware of. Like we've all been just talking about, it has like the nice marriage of just like neither engine really loses to the other, or like loses the same cards that the other one has. So definitely something to keep an eye out for if you're going to Anaheim.
The Mourners really catch me off guard, honestly.
The Veiler.
The Baylor and the
Mourner.
Mourners. Like,
I didn't see what's in there. What the heck?
This is Mateo. He's a really good player. Really like excellent technical play. I think he was going for like just generic cards because also like there's a thing in Latin America. Like the earlier rounds, you're gonna get like a lot of random decks. So I guess he was just trying to not target too much like anything in particular. So I guess that was the goal for it. Just a lot of hand drops.
Do you have any thoughts on the deck count for this type of deck? We saw Trif play 60. This is playing 50. I've seen a friend of mine, Joey Lynch, top 8'd the Houston Regional this past weekend, playing a 40 card version. So what are your thoughts on how many cards should be in this type of deck?
So I feel like okay, I feel like it goes the same like over a lot of formats where it's like you can add more cards and you can add more starters and non-engine to like technically make up for it. But then you have to like look at like the quality of non-engine and the quality of starters. And like you start seeing like, we're playing 3 cookie, 3 lollipop, so we're adding more normal summons, which I think is like fine overall. But then the hand traps, we start adding cards like Mourner, and it's like, what are we doing? Like maybe we should just, play a little bit less cards or something. But I think it is like fine to play more cards. But you get to a point to where it's like you wonder how many cards it's worth playing. But then you look at this list and it's like he played 60. He probably played like 80 if he could. And it's like that's a lot of cards, but it does work. Like it's cool. Like the engines bridge with each other like pretty well.
Yeah,
Yeah, like one thing I
Herald
will
the Arclight to 1
say.
wasn't low enough, unfortunately. Sorry, Cormac, continue.
No, yeah, you're good. You're good. Is like when I compare these two types of lists, like I would say I definitely get the idea of like both of them and Mateo's as well. But when I look at Trif's list here, it looks like a more refined version of what this type of list I feel like should be because it understands the idea that like Mitsurugi has a lot of cards that maybe you don't realistically want to draw. Yomi has the field spells and to an extent surprise that maybe you don't really want to see in your opening hand going second. So and then you're also talking about cards like say the Lollipo and the Cookie, which they're fine Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but they wouldn't be like top of your list of cards, especially when you go second. And I think go second is like the hardest thing for obviously so many decks to do. Like you can go first, and if you combo, then you generally win. So being able to like sort of slim down on those and then just maximize on all of the best parts of your deck. So see here, the third Haba plays the pre-preps. I can't speak for all the things like the Miracle Ravens and the Nouvelle stuff and the preparation of rights, but it's the point of being like, okay, max out on all the best parts of your deck, and then you can slim down on some of those more fringe options when you compare it to say the Mateo list, which is playing, I think it's playing all 12 of the Yummy names, and it's only playing like 2 Habakiri. It's kind of taking the opposite approach, but then a lot of hand traps. I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I look at this and I say, okay, this is fine. I get the idea of it. You try and like go wider to slim down and sort of like the poor draws. But yeah, I think when I look at the versions of this, I think I would prefer the way that Trif would have built it, even though it being even more cards than what Mateo had.
Yeah, I think Mateo's are definitely more of a yummy Mitsurugi, and then
Yeah, these
Trif's
are
would be
yummy
more
deck.
Mitsurugi yummy, like if you want to
Yeah.
look at it that way. Like this is definitely a yummy
Trif is
deck
playing
that
a
has the
5.
access to Mitsurugi, and I assume he upped it. Like this is probably just like a 40 card per yummy deck, and he just threw the Mitsurugi cards in at the last 10. And Trif built the entire 60 with the goal of it being able to bridge between back and forth.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think obviously both strategies worked out. Like it was first and second in the tournament, and Swiss was whatever 13 rounds, and they obviously made the finals. So at least whatever 12, 13 wins, and this deck seems to saw success in Steel. So like I'm saying, I think this deck is going to perform very well. We'll see what variants pop up, like what gets more refined. I think Trif's
There's
deck
a
is
lot
very
of
good.
space.
Sorry.
Yeah. There's a lot of space for deck building and creativity with this, and I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
we're gonna have some time until we get like a standardized list of whatever this
Mhm.
is.
I also
One,
think
yeah,
that part is also impacted by the fact that we've been speaking a little bit about it, and we say that hand traps are not that impactful in this current format. Like they can be okay. There's some in particular, like Impulse can be okay at times. Fua can be okay depending on the matchup that you're playing against. But even against like Mitsurugi and Draco Tail, it's not even that amazing. So I feel like a lot of the times when hand traps are so important, and I think to the point that Austin was mentioning, the quality of those hand traps, those particular ones you're trying to see, when that is really, really important, you really want to have your deck as slim as possible to be seeing them as often as possible. Right now, that's less of the case than it probably is in the majority of formats. So we get the freedom to sort of like explore, different deck counts or like different types of decks within the format to maybe take advantage of that.
yeah. And then what? Yeah. So speaking of, so when hand traps aren't good, obviously inverse of that is breakers are better. And then we see in both lists, in Mateo's list he played one Regeki, but in Trif's he's playing 3 Storms, Dark Rulers. Um, this is a trend that I think we'll may see a little bit more for Anaheim as we get into like the discussion of what we see moving forward. But I think the board break cards are a little bit underrated right now. They
Yeah,
are
they've
solid
been
across the
really
board
good.
against like Mitsurugi. They out the patchy thing post side. And Dark Ruler is obviously not fantastic into them, but when you play like Storm to out the back row and then Regeki to like either force the purification or force them to like prayers, tribute stuff back, I think these cards are positioned reasonably well. And then against like Yummy, obviously you're forcing out the Herald, or you're forcing out like their entire board and that's a surprise back. So I think these are some cards that we're gonna see perform pretty well this weekend. That would be my prediction in terms of non-engine that's gonna shine. So yeah, now we get into Anaheim discussion. We'll spend a few minutes on this. So based on what we have seen from Peru and France, what do y'all think is gonna like guess whatever like Here, we'll do this. We'll guess whatever you think is going to win the event, and then a sleeper pick for top 8. We'll start with you, Austin.
Probably like Yummy Mitsu. The deck's probably good spot to win. Sleeper pick, dude. I don't even know if there's like a crazy sleeper pick. I feel like there's like infinite sleeper picks. I don't know. I guess Lunalight. That deck's cool, but it's, pretty bad into the Mitsurugi Kaiju guy.
Yeah. So yeah, if they're playing Yummy, then they're probably won't be playing Wusu, so that's good for you. Good for the prediction.
Me.
Good for the prediction of Lunalight. Yes. You're the one that showed Wolf in the beginning, bro. We're making assumptions.
Yeah, I'm just into Lunalight Wolf, bro. I'm just into it.
All right, whatever you want to do in your spare time is your decision, my friend. All right, Franco, what are your thoughts? What wins and what's a sleeper?
I think Dracotel might actually take it. I think it's a deck that it's well positioned, and if everyone is maining draw, it's a deck that thrives when people are maining bad handshots against it and not respecting it. And I think with the results we have seen, it's probably gonna get like less respected. So I think a really well Dracotel deck it has a lot of flaws, but I think it's a deck that is not yet solved. So maybe someone can actually solve it and find how to completely break it. And for a sleeper pick, I think maybe some Solfacor variant. Those cards are good. I think they still need to be solved too.
Sulfur. I think I heard rumors of that deck being played a little bit in Peru, so we'll see who if anyone comes to Anaheim with it and can pull it out. I saw Elijah Green playing it on Dueling Book earlier. He's playing the Canine Sulfur deck, so those cards are intriguing. I've gone over them a little bit on my channel. They have good effects, and they're both as good going first as they are going second with Happiness, just like being able to put bodies on board. So
yeah, that card's crazy. Crazy.
Yeah, very good card. It's a pendulum summon from hand. Well, after it searches. So a lot of good effects on those cards. We'll see if they're able to function. Yeah, I don't know enough about it to really give a strong opinion, but it wouldn't surprise me if like there's just like another good sleeper deck that because I think you can play Yummy with it because they're all level 1s. Obviously play K9s because they're level 5. There's a lot of availability to splash that engine in with other good engines. Cormac, what about you?
Yeah, it's difficult right now. My difficulty is that I feel that a lot of the main decks in the format, it's very, very hard to be able to have a list that covers all of them really well. I think the best thing we've seen so far was Trif's list, which ended up obviously winning over in Peru, just because the nature of all of the main decks in the format kind of having different things you need to target. I think when we spoke about things like Super Poly earlier, where it being really good into Mitsu and into Yummy, but not that good into Dracotail. I do kind of have a similar feeling to Franco, where I wonder if Dracotail will almost go a little bit under the radar in terms of how people are looking to prepare for it. If people go heavier on the Drolls and the Super Polys, these sort of cards that don't really impact it. You kind of want your deck to be performing well into the non-engine that people are maybe tending towards. So if Dracotail is maybe potentially that pick, I could see it. I could see it doing well. I think there's also a couple of good pilots of it who will be playing, most likely will be playing it at Anaheim if I had to guess. So I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up taking it there. In terms of a sleeper pick, I think it's similar mentions like Austin mentioned, like Lunalight, like these set of decks that can really, really take advantage of the heavy breaker builds. I think Lunalight, potentially a Christian K9, something like that. Maybe just something that's like a super crazy go first combo deck, and it just gets to play all the breakers going second. It can just power through whatever board. Those are probably just the first things that come to mind.
Yeah, I think a Yummy variant wins. I don't think it's pure Yummy, but it's probably Mitsu Yummy or whatever deck that can take advantage of Yummy being so splashable. Like I view Yummy right now kind of like how Fiendsmith was viewed maybe like 9 months ago. Like it's very splashable. It does a lot of things. It's accessible in a lot of different engines. But this one has the benefit of not losing a Droll and not losing to Fua, so it applies a lot of pressure through those cards. I'm not exactly sure what is the best variant to take advantage of that. That's something I'm still trying to figure out. But I think any like a deck playing Yummy cards will probably win the event. And then I think I agree with you on like the Crystron Canine thing. That's a deck that I like. I think it has a really oppressive end board going first. And especially if people are playing just like normal hand traps, like I don't think you are gonna lose with that deck going first almost. Obviously, we saw a top 4 Peru with Kamal. We'll probably see his list sometime after Anaheim. Deck is powerful. I think the Draco Tail is a good call as well. We saw Jordan get 10th place with it in Lille. He's obviously very good at Yu-Gi-Oh! Is he going to Anaheim? Do you know?
I don't think so. No. But he was discussing with some people who are considering taking Draco Tail to Anaheim. So yeah, they kind of like that was part of my reasoning for why I think Draco Tail might perform well as well. If I think some good players are going to play it, and
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, it's shown some good results with people that they've been discussing with. I wouldn't be surprised. End up doing well with it as well.
If barrier is as common as I've seen it, I think that deck will struggle. If it is any less common, or if the deck like does things to not trigger thrust, like there was one deck profile, I think it was top 32 at one of the YCSs, where he like sided out hand traps to play around thrust post side. Like that seems like something I'm not sure how viable it is because like you need monsters in your deck. But if there is a way to like just put in like fusion cards like Shaddoll Fusion or like play Brandon Fusion, just like minimize the ability to get thrusted.
Perhaps going second sounds really good if you're playing Brandon Fusion.
Yeah.
I think if people are on the trust, like going first scenario, a lot of times you like, for example, with Mitsu, you don't even wanna bother with full wallows. Like, yeah, sure, full combo. It's the same. I'd rather play into full Yummy board without barrier.
Yeah.
And not full you.
Yeah, I mean, if you just like do what some people, I mean, the other thing you can do is just like play Nib, let them full combo Nib when they summon Herald, and now they don't have Herald and they can't trust you. Like that's like probably like the dream scenario for Draco Tail is having that card in your list somewhere. So I think there's a lot of options for that deck to pull out. We'll see if it performs well. I like the deck. I think it's very cool. It like plays like honest Yu-Gi-Oh! In like a way that I think is fun to play against. Like. And it also doesn't have like an oppressive end we're going first, which I think is a flaw, but in terms of just like gameplay is really like fun and interactive and good to play against Yu-Gi-Oh! These days.
It is a deck that needs a really good pilot. Like when you play a good Draco player, it feels like a really strong deck, and then when you play someone who's clearly not like very good at the fundamentals of what the deck is trying to achieve, it feels like a gold format deck.
Alrighty, boys. Any final thoughts? We're about an hour in, and don't want to take you too long. All good? Alrighty, I appreciate you all for joining me. Obviously, a different cast of characters, so thank you for coming last minute. Good luck. Austin, I think I'll see you at Anaheim this weekend. Franco, you're going to, what is the YCS in 2 weeks?
São Paulo. Brazil.
Sao Paulo in Brazil. Cormac, we'll see you at, are you, no, I forgot, you're going on your honeymoon. Have a fantastic time in Asia, my friend. So he's going to have a fun time over there.
You will not see me in any Yu-Gi-Oh context for like 4 months, and I will love every moment of it. Yeah.
Hey, living life outside of Yu-Gi-Oh is very important, so I'm happy for you. Enjoy your time. Safe travels. Alrighty. Thank you for joining on the bubble, and we'll see you in the next one.